From the Arkansas Sports Network, it's an in-depth Arkansas Razorbacks podcast featuring the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Brad Caldwell.
When I grew up, I remember the Quinn Grovey days where the SWC champions in 88 and 89. I mean, that was the time that I grew up. That's the time that I got hooked on Razorbacks.
Around here, we call him the Rain Man of Arkansas Razorback Sports, Mr. Duran Miller.
Real quick, speaking about going down to Baton Rouge, and all the corn dogs and all that nature. But y'all remember the time Bobby Boucher intercepted the quarterback and his pants fell off?
And finally, he wears his hair upside down and he pushes all the buttons, Mr. Bill Harshaw.
When you look at the Razorback athletic program across the board, Hunter Yurichek's got this thing moving in the right direction. Because these kids are looking at Arkansas athletics going, hey, Arkansas is the place to be, and we haven't had that in a while.
Everyone get ready, because you're now connected to the Razor Wire.
Welcome into yet another episode of the Razor Wire. Bill Harshaw, along with me, as always, Brad Caldwell and Duran Miller. And guys, before we get in to the big weekend that was, we do have some things sawed off the Razor Wire that we want to mention. Some national awards coming out for Hayden Henry and Grant Morgan, and well-deserved.
Big-time awards, especially for Grant. Hayden played great. Grant had 13 tackles and a half, guys. These guys just want it more right now. It just means more in the SEC. It just means more at Arkansas right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Bumper Pool, he has 13 tackles game one, only plays a half, gets 10. He had 14 game one, so 24. Grant's getting 13. Hayden Henry's coming in, just doing crazy stuff. I mean, this defense is set up for these linebackers to really to rake in all the accolades and get all these tackles, and it's just big time. Just huge awards and just an exciting time to be a Razorback fan.
Yeah, it really is. We've talked about it so many times. It's crazy how awesome things are right now. I mean, the basketball team doing what it's doing. And then, you just didn't really expect the football team necessarily, although we have picks to show, we've got picks to prove that we look like lunatics for a little bit. At least people would have thought that way. Now, I don't think they're thinking that way anymore. It's a really good time. It's a really good time to be a Hog.
Absolutely, as you know, and of course we have the freshman kicker that came in, and I know he was getting some accolades and a lot of talk about the 4 field goals that he hit. And you could tell early on in that game we were getting into a little bit of a kicker battle. It was almost like the Little Dicker feud, as both of our kickers are going back and forth. So I mean, it was a well of a game. You get a freshman in there that you look at him in the spring game and he's just kind of inconsistent. He's came a long way.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. I don't even know what to say about you anymore. It's like if you don't know me by now, right?
Right.
I forgot what you said.
Well, I was talking about the early kicker battle that we were having there with the 4 field goals from Cam Little and Dicker missing his.
Yeah. Cam Little looks like a weapon. I mean, SEC Freshman of the Week. When Arkansas has a kicker that can kick it through the uprights, it's always a plus, right? It just seems like it's usually every other year you kind of have a guy that can do it, kind of have a guy that can't do it. So it's a big deal. It was good. You want to see Arkansas capitalize on touchdowns. I mean, that game, honestly, 40-21 was not even close to indicative of how that score actually should have been. I mean, You start capitalizing touchdowns for field goals right there, and that thing is ugly.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead if you're not done.
Well, I was just going to say that 40-21, 19 points. Right. It looked more like a 39-point game than a 19-point game.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that as well. Definitely. I mean, there was there's some things that I do feel like we need to be a little bit concerned about. There was 3 guys that got deep. That Card starting quarterback. They talked about that on the game. If you watch the actual TV, how he was kind of sailing his passes to the right a little bit. They could have scored some touchdowns, made this game a little different. But that was my point was also look at us. We settled for 4 field goals, especially after the blocked punt where we're down there in a short field. If this team gets better and learns to capitalize on those, I mean, it's even if they hit a couple of those big long passes, we're still going to score another 10, 14 points or so if we could have capitalized instead of getting 4 field goals. So you could look at that both ways. But yeah, I mean, this was a curb stomping, in my opinion. I mean, Texas was never in it. And I think that's what you see from the national media, guys like Gene Chizik and, different guys all during a week talking about is the physicality that you saw at Arkansas.
Don't give it away, Julian. Don't give it away.
Really took Texas to the woodshed.
Don't give it all away here. We've still got to talk about it. We still got time to talk about it. Let's not give it all away right now. Arkansas baseball. Don't forget, they released their schedule yesterday. And big time home schedule there. Defending national champions, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt coming to Arkansas, LSU coming to Arkansas, Ole Miss coming to Arkansas. That's 4 premier programs coming to Arkansas just in the SEC alone. They've got a really favorable schedule for a lot of it, but the SEC schedule is going to be tough, but you get those big ones at home. It's big.
Yeah, and you got the Round Rock, Texas showcase down there on Flow Baseball. So we'll get to watch that again, and I hope you share some links for me, Brad, like last year. But
Twitch, you can find a lot of those on Twitch.
I'll be listening to some dude doing his own commentating and like drinking ice cold drinks the whole time and teeth rattling and ice rattling. But I don't get how we can't get ESPN for such a premier tournament when you got teams like Stanford down there, and I don't remember who else coming, but yeah, pretty exciting. This team could be better than what we just had last year, and that's saying something.
Who knows? We might be there.
That's right.
So check this thing out, guys. This is after Texas, after the game. This is Pittman in the locker room. Check this out.
But I'm going to tell you something. What you did is you made history, and what you did is you made the people in Arkansas who believe in your ass, who believe in you because they're here, so they believe in you. You made them come back, right? And on Sunday morning, when they get up to go to church or get up to go to Waffle House or whatever they want to do, you have given them an opportunity to be proud of the damn Arkansas Razorbacks. Yes, sir. That is one hell of a job. Let's stand up and call them damn Hogs. Hell yeah! Hey, say! Louder! Hey, say! Louder, damn it! Hey, say! Razorbacks! Where you at, John? What we doing? What we doing, Coach? Turn that damn thing!
So you can't watch that and tell me that guy doesn't get you fired up.
Absolutely. It's just a fit, man. I mean, he's Houston Nutt without the fakeness, I guess.
The
I don't
nerdiness.
know if it's a fake. I don't know. Houston Nutt was loved for a while and then he wasn't. And
he doesn't have that dork. He doesn't have that dork attachment.
I think here's the difference. And I like that. But I think here's the difference between Sam Pittman and Houston Nutt is that when Sam Pittman says he's going to do something, he'll do it. Houston Nutt said a lot of things throughout his time at Arkansas. The biggest thing that got Houston was the lack of a passing game and the promise of a passing game every year, and it never happened. So that was the thing that kind of got the Gus Malzahn thing rolling, and then it just kind of blew up. But Sam Pittman is Houston Nutt with the backing of his word and a little less rah-rah. But, man, he's got this team eating out of the palm of his hand right now. He's a perfect fit. And you can appreciate a guy like Houston Nutt after what you've went through over the last few years. So,
Yep.
Houston, he did a lot of good things at Arkansas. Sam Pittman is Houston Nutt with a brain.
I think the only thing that at this point that you can say that Chad Morris left at Arkansas must be that jukebox. That's the only thing left over from Club Dub, and Sam likes it because he keeps turning that damn thing on. And I want to know what's on his playlist. Next time we get a chance to ask Sam Pittman a question in one of these press conferences, that's it. I want to know what Sam Pittman, what is your, what is on your playlist? Are we listening to Hank Jr., A Country Boy Can't Survive, or you got some deep in the heart of Texas going on?
Lukenbach, Texas, maybe. Some guitars to tune good. All right, but no, dude, he's perfect. He is the right fit, and just so genuine. Just everything he says, these guys love him. They'd run through a brick wall for him. Just super. I mean, he couldn't be a better fit. He's perfect for the state of Arkansas. He totally gets it. He totally understands it. And I think you nailed it. Nutt's a lot like that in some ways, but Pittman is a little bit more of a blue collar, come to work, roll your sleeves up, with the personality still to have fun, and I think that's what we get out of Sam Pittman.
Sam is real. I think the humbleness maybe is a little different there as well. Sam is a guy. Look, hey, I've got a great team around me. Houston was I called that play, Chuck. That type of.
I did call that
deal.
play.
Right, exactly. but let me say something about Sam. Well, really not necessarily Sam, but the reaction. Remember in, December of 19, late December of 19, when we hired Sam Pittman, and all of the national pundits that talked about how terrible of a hire it was. And Alabama's got Nick Saban, and Auburn's got Gus Malzahn, and Texas A&M's got Jimbo Fisher. And then go down the line, Ed Orgeron. Arkansas's got Sam Pittman. Doesn't look so bad now, does it?
Right.
Now, you look back at when Sam Pittman left Arkansas when he was the offensive line coach, and true Arkansas fans will remember losing him, thinking, this is not good for our offensive line. He's a great coach. He's a great recruiter. We knew he was valuable as a coach back then. But at that time, I never saw him as the future head coach of the University of Arkansas. I think he stepped into these shoes. He's filling them well, and he's surrounding them by people that's not only been there before, but appear to be the best in the business. I mean, look at what Odom's done.
Oh, my gosh, man. Go ahead.
Well, talking about that, I mean, if you remember, him and Jim Chaney were best friends. They were together at Tennessee. They came here together. Bielema got both of them. Jim Chaney, he's well acclaimed. Drew Brees, he was his quarterback coach, offense coordinator in college. And Chaney left a year before Pittman did. And Pittman stayed another year. And I think that shows you, because they kind of were a package everywhere. That shows you his heart was really at Arkansas. He didn't really want to go. And of course, he talked about how his wife, he basically slept on a couch the first year they were at Georgia. So, I mean, that probably played a part, but that's definitely where their heart is. And of course, they got the house in Lake Hamilton, and obviously they just upgraded, I just saw. But, he's definitely the Arkansas guy for sure.
Yeah, he keeps saying, he says, this is my last job. He wants to be, this is like his pinnacle of coaching, and he wants to be a Razorback coach, and I'm happy to let him stay here.
You can't hear something better as a fan. That just makes you feel good when you heard that the other day at halftime.
Oh, yeah. His love. The biggest thing is his love for Arkansas. And a guy that grew up in Grove, Oklahoma, somehow became a Razorback fan throughout, tried to come to the University of Arkansas when Lou Holtz was here. He camped here, that sort of thing. It didn't work out. He ends up going up to Pitt State, drinking beer on the sideline there. You probably saw that picture. But Pittman is definitely the epitome of what you want as a Razorback coach right now. He's winning ball games. He's resurrecting the program. That was a huge win against Texas. Massive win. But I concur that 2 weeks, actually about 9 days from now, it's going to be, that's the big one. That's the big one, is Texas A&M. And I'm sorry I dated this again, Bill. I know it drives you nuts.
He's looking out the window like he's mad.
He's like,
I think there's a dog out his window or something.
I know I dated this, Bill. I do it every single time. I promise. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do it.
Yeah, we're running it tonight. It's all good.
It is what it is.
But yeah, I mean that if we win that game, if we can win Saturday, take it one game at a time, baby. But if we can win Saturday and go down to Arlington and pull that off and get that monkey off our back, we haven't beat them since 2011. It would be just astronomical, and it'll make this Texas win, even though they're the rival and we hate them. I mean, it would make that look small, in my opinion. Beating Texas A&M would be a much bigger win.
It would, because it continues that Texas momentum. We want to keep that. We had the Rice. We were able to defeat Rice. We were able to knock off Texas, and a big win at Texas A&M keeps that Texas off our back, and that's what we're looking for. Because look at what we did against Texas. We ran the ball for 333 yards.
Yes,
They
sir.
were trying to make Arkansas pass the ball. Well, that didn't turn out well. If we don't have to pass it, we're not going to. So guess what? That didn't work. But you kind of look at Sam Pittman, what he had to say Saturday after the game. He was pretty fired up. Check out Coach Pittman.
They were swarming, and they did a really good job. Our linebackers are really good players. Barry had the idea to go back to our three-man front for the most part. He was multiple tonight, but for the most part in a three-man front going back from last year. Felt like we could stop the run that way. We had so much respect for Robinson and still do, obviously. But that's the way that Coach thought he could win the game on defense, and our team bought into that. And certainly the first half, well, the entire game they played outstanding, but the first half they just set the tone completely for the game. Coach Kennedy comes in June the 4th or whatever it was. And, we rushed for 333 yards, average, 7+ yards a carry. He's got some really hardworking kids. They took a lot of heat, over in the past and will, I'm sure, some in the future. It's part of the nature, but the way they played tonight to rush for 333 on a good Texas squad was outstanding. And Bo Limmer's a part of that as well. He's playing a lot of ball too, but we had the 5 starters back from last year and Bo, and they need credit. I don't think they gave up a sack tonight either. And they came to play. I'm really proud of them. Well, I liked it. I thought a lot of it. I was happy. I know what you're asking. And that's something. 5 went in there and did really good. And then 0 came in there and did really good, Bob. But I tell you what they're doing. Jimmy's really, next hole. They're reading their first read. And we were slower before. I mean, they're reading the first read, and then 2, if it's closed, they go to 3, and they're hitting it fast. And they're really helping our linemen, Bob, with the way that they're hitting holes. I mean, people say, well, that's easy to do. Well, it's not really when they're a zone type scheme, and you've got to read, and make the right read, just like a quarterback has to on a defensive end. The best thing about our team, and it happened last year, is when we played a pretty good first half against Georgia, and I've said it before, and then went to Mississippi State and won, went to Auburn and had the call at the end, come back home, beat Ole Miss. Our team, our coaches have done a really good job of saying, okay, well, you can take the pats on the back, but when we get in here on Monday, we've got to go play Georgia Southern. They've done a really good job with that. The next step, I don't know, Trey. I think we took a step already. That was the number 15 team in the country, and they beat the 23rd team in the country soundly last week. So I think we have taken a step, and now we have to keep climbing. But I got to ask a question about what do we need to do to be to be a good SEC team? Well, I mean, we played some pretty good teams and beat some pretty good teams, so we're headed that direction. We got a long way to go, but tonight sure was nice.
So again, that's what she's talking about. Coach Pittman saying all the right things. He's not only, adhering to his students and his players that listen to every word that he says, but also fans, and fans adore him. And Pittman continues to get the ball rolling here in Arkansas.
Yes, he does. It's exciting, man. I mean, it's just exciting times. And I think you can appreciate it a little more as a Razorback fan, living through what you've lived through over the last, I don't know, you look at Bielema and say he had some pockets of success, but really it wasn't great here. And then, Chad Morris was a complete disaster. So it's easy to celebrate that. and appreciate. Yeah, Pittman's still, even now, has a losing record at Arkansas, but if he wins in 2 weeks, he evens up his record at Arkansas. That's pretty good. And you think about the competition that he's played versus the competition that Chad Morris played in those 2 years. I believe it was the 2019 schedule was really set up for Arkansas to win some ball games. And they just didn't. And now you've got Arkansas winning. But let's talk a little bit about what happened against Texas.
Right.
We talked about that running game. What was that running game set up by? It was that offensive line. The things that I've noticed here in 2 games, the first game, it was kind of like, okay, well, it was Rice. And so we didn't think nothing about it. But now it's Texas that they did this to. And this is that they completely wore down the defensive line by the end of the game.
Right.
And I mean, just blew them off the ball.
Yeah, the Rice game, they're going out with injuries, cramps every other play at the end because we wore them down so much. My big take is I wanted us to use what we had. And we talked about it last week. I brought this up that KJ, we've got to run the read. We've got to give him a few design plays, get him going, get him some confidence. He starts throwing better when he starts getting some runs going. And I was wondering, did we not show any of that against Rice until we really had to in the second half because it was such a game, because they just didn't think they needed that? You know what I'm saying? Or was it they kind of learned this is what gets KJ going? You know what I mean? But I kind of think it's a little bit of both. I think they realized it even more. They kind of had that plan for Texas that they were going to kind of do some more design runs and things of that nature. And that's what really opens us up, because these read zones, KJ is holding the defense. He's holding that linebacker out wide, which is giving the running back more room to cut through. And they talked about it in depth about the cutback lanes and how the running backs are doing such a good job of reading. And it's a zone blocking scheme, and they're doing such a good job of reading that backside cut lane. And with KJ holding that linebacker or that DB coming up, that safety, whatever, holding him out wide, it's giving us that second or two to hit that seam. And we're seeing that. And AJ Green, man, that dude, does he not look like a splitting image almost of Felix Jones, the way he runs the ball? He's one of those guys, like if you watch Traylon Smith, it looks like he takes 100 steps to go 10 yards, AJ's kind of like Felix, where they just kind of scoop, you know what I'm saying? And to me, he don't look like his legs are going that fast, but he's running a 4.4, you know what I'm saying? And they're both from Tulsa. I mean, I see so many comparisons there. And then you got Rocket Sanders, number 5. I mean, we're talking about Felix, a dude that looks like Felix on the team. He's number 0 though. And then you got Rocket Raheem Sanders. And so you're going to get those McFadden comparisons, even though they're a lot different. But I think we found a tandem right there out of just 2 freshmen that are amazing. And that's not even talking about what Traylon does for you and what Dominic Johnson does. So I might be as excited about him as I am the 2 freshmen.
And you start looking at these beasts that we have in the backfield that are performing well, and that gets everybody excited. We're sitting here looking at stuff on the field that we haven't seen in years. We're seeing an offensive production that everybody's been begging for. We were supposed to have that a few years ago, but we got stuck in the median. But we've been, our fans, we've been put down and put down and put down so long that we finally get a win. And we storm the field, and Texas is like, oh, it's because they hate us more than they love themselves. Well, not really. My argument about that is it doesn't matter who we beat. We beat somebody that was top 25, and that hadn't happened in a while, and Arkansas fans were hungry for it. So that being said, are you okay with the storming of the field after the game?
I am, and I think you hit it perfectly. It wasn't about Texas. It was about us. It's about what we've been through. Arkansas has been on the field a couple times in the most recent history. If you go back to 2014, I believe, when Bielema won his first SEC ball game there against LSU, 17-0. I mean, everybody was out on the field. That's the kind of thing that is kind of same deal here. It's just kind of a crescendo of, hey, we're back. Okay. Now, what does we're back mean? I don't know. But as far as just Saturday goes, we were back. We were relevant. We beat Texas because they were the number 15 team in the country. Didn't have as much to do with the fact that we hate Texas. Now, the atmosphere in the building, absolutely. That had something to do with Texas.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a perfect build up. You had the whole SEC, the Big 12, they're coming to the SEC. It's our old rival. You've got a team that was completely turned around, played the toughest schedule in the country of all time last year. I mean, it was probably the worst schedule, the most toughest schedule ever. Just all those things building. And you've got Hunter Yurchek tweeting out the night before, "Hey guys, if y'all want to," he didn't say it, but basically he was saying, "Whatever y'all do, I'm not going to stop you if you want to storm the field." So it was just, I completely agree. It was more of just us getting to that crescendo, getting to that spot where we've kind of turned the page a little bit, and we don't have to be embarrassed of our product now.
Yeah.
It's not about, oh, we beat Texas, and I've seen all the Texas friends saying, we wouldn't have rushed the field if we'd have beat y'all here, but that's why.
That's
Because
exactly
of
why.
everything that's going
Yeah.
on.
And the excitement, the things that happened during the game. I mean, the most memorable thing that I can remember when I was watching that game is you're sitting there and the camera's looking right down the line on 4th and 1. They try to run it. We stuff it in the backfield. It's a great camera shot. The camera just pans right on up as you see Coach Sarkisian kneeling down on the sideline and just disappointment all over his face. And, I was ready to storm the field right then.
I agree with you. I saw the same thing. I thought when I saw the look on Sark's face, I'm thinking, man, this just hasn't happened in so long, that we were making a good team. And let me tell you something, Texas, just because they got beat by us doesn't mean they're not going to win a bunch of games. I think they're going to win a lot of games in the Big 12. I think they're going to finish in the top 3 in the Big 12. They're going to have a chance to be better. Casey Thompson coming in at quarterback, will that help them? They would not have won the game with Casey Thompson. Let me tell you that right now. They would not have won the game with Casey Thompson. We were a better team on the field, 100%. Barry Odom would have been ready for Casey Thompson if he had been out there and quarterbacking. So let me just throw that out there. But what we're seeing, when you see that look on Coach's face, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
Pure disbelief. And as an Arkansas fan who hates Texas more than I love Arkansas, I loved that quote, by the way, by the announcers. I was like, That's it. Somebody gets it. And, when I saw that look on Sark's face, that disbelief, the disappointment, it was just pure ecstasy on my end. I was just like, that is it, But, Duran, you kind of alluded to it earlier, talking about, what this could mean for Arkansas moving forward. We got Georgia Southern coming up, Texas A&M looming. What does this Texas win mean to Arkansas moving forward?
I mean, it's momentum. It's huge. You're 2-0 now, and it's confidence. I mean, look at the difference of the game KJ was from week 1 to week 2. I mean, now I think they're just going to build upon it. But now when we get to Georgia Southern, it's a tricky game because, like, I'm actually a big Notre Dame fan. They're like probably my second favorite team.
There you go. You can get out.
Yeah. And well, I grew up watching them when Lou Holtz was there, and they play Navy every year. And Navy's kind of like a Georgia Southern because they run that option. And I'm telling you, that worries me a little bit about moving forward to A&M because you have to use a lot of bodies, a lot of linebackers, a lot of ends, and they're physical, and it's just completely different. You have to spend extra time. We found out this week that they've spent time in the off season. I think it was in camp. They spent time working on Georgia Southern, and you think that's crazy. Y'all are going to spend a little extra time working on Georgia Southern. It's because it's something you don't see. You don't see this offense, this type of triple option attack. So I worry a little bit about us being a little banged up when we come out of that. So I'm hoping the offense really just plays really well like they did, because Georgia Southern, I mean, they really didn't have a good game last week. I hope we can come out and get a huge lead, and we won't have to worry about that as much. We could play a lot of players at some of those positions to keep everybody healthy. Don't have to worry about targeting and all of those things and getting guys suspended for that A&M game.
That's it. Georgia Southern, that is the name of the hour. And we're going to talk about Georgia Southern coming up next. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk about Georgia Southern in just a moment.
he's not working.
And that's what I really like about Sam Pittman. He's always genuine, and I really think he's very happy to be at the University of Arkansas.
Did I put a question mark in the teleprompter again? I forget you literally read that thing like exactly as it's written.
Oh, come on, Bill. You know you're just as off the cuff as Sam Pittman is.
At least y'all ain't got a wasp nest out here to deal with the size of Brad's head.
If people only knew what went on behind the scenes.
Oh, I know. For real, this is not Sports Center. Back here on the Razor Wire, and of course we got Georgia Southern coming up next. That's the next little roadblock here for the Hogs. And when you start looking at the work that goes into play, you're just looking at the press conference from after the Texas game, and you start looking at what's going on there. And defensively, you have John Ridgway, who just got out of surgery, and he's talking about I didn't want to take any time off. I was ready to go. Pittman was saying, I'm glad that we caught it early because that kept the recovery time a little on the lower side. But Ridgway likes what Arkansas is doing. He says that they are building a championship team and they're putting in the work. Here's what Ridgway had to say last week.
We just wanted to go out there and dominate. There's a lot of talk about who was the better team during the week. We took that personal, so we wanted to show who was the better team today. I felt like I shed blocks pretty well. I know I got to work on some things during this week. Should make it better. Hopefully I can get some more, but I know I played pretty good for my first day back from having surgery a week and a half ago, but I think it was pretty fun for my first day in the SEC to lay it all on the table like that. It was really nice. I wasn't used to it, especially making a play and looking up and seeing everybody just jumping up and down. It was really nice, but I try not to focus on stuff like that. Just trying to go out there and play ball how I'm supposed to, but having the fans and everybody roaring and screaming was really nice. Nice atmosphere for sure. Ricky dominated, so the offensive line. I appreciate being able to go against an offensive line like the one we have now because it makes me better and I can make them better at the same time. And Ricky, I think he's like number 5 center in the SEC. He makes me better every day. So I definitely enjoy going against him in our battles we have. And win or lose, he makes me better, and I know I make him better. I know we're just trying to build up to be a championship team, and I think this year we got it. We work every day, bust our butt in practice. We do everything we can to have that championship mindset on and off the field. Whether it's in the classroom, going to class, going to extra meetings, getting film room, going to treatment. We just want to be great. So we got to put the work in to do it, and I think we have been.
So I wanted to kind of mention that real quick before we get into Georgia Southern because it does play into what we're going to talk about here as Arkansas's putting the work in. They're grinding iron, sharpening iron, trying to get better. And I think Georgia Southern could be one of two things. Could be either a kind of a tune-up game. Could be a perfect trap game too. So, you don't want to say, oh, yeah, these guys are, going to be easier to beat than Rice, and then they get walked over.
I think that's every Razorback fan's fear in some way. That you come up with this big win and then you lose or you play even not impressively. You know what I mean? That I think Arkansas is going to win the game. Okay, most likely. And we've lost to all the teams that we lost to with Chad Morris, but it's just a different feeling now. Right. Arkansas is going to beat Georgia Southern, but you don't want Arkansas to come in and just look lackluster and kind of like what they did against the Rice for a half. You want them to look good, get ready, and be excited about going into the Southwest Classic against Texas A&M. You want them to look sharp, and so that's probably as big a fear as anything that there's going to be a letdown after that Texas game. There very well could be.
Right, and I don't think Pittman. I think they're on top of this. Or, they talked about it Tuesday. He wasn't happy about how practice went. He wasn't. He said even the meetings beforehand, he kind of got the feel that things weren't kind of where they should be. There was a little bit of some lacklusterness in there, and so he said practice yesterday, Wednesday, was much better. So they're really excited about that. But this team is built to be blue collar, to roll up their sleeves, to go to work, and I think that's what we're going to see. And there could be some stuff where maybe they come out a little sluggish here or there. But I think for the most part, Pittman and the staff, just like in that Rice game, we're down 17-7. They didn't roll over like they would under Morris. You know, they figured it out and they went out there and they scored 31 straight. And hopefully we don't even have any issues like that. And they just come out and just are world beaters. But definitely, I agree with you, Brad. I don't think they're going to lose at all. You know, we'll see if it's a 30-point win or a 16-point win or something like that. But I hope we come out and the offense just picks up where it left off and we roll, and they can't slow us down. And by halftime, it's in hand.
Well, that was one of the things that Pittman talked about, Duran, is the sluggishness that they had in practice earlier this week. And, you know, Pittman is aware that, you know, hey, if you sleepwalk on somebody, you could get beat. And he's trying to prep those guys against that. Here's what Pittman had to say looking ahead to Georgia Southern.
You know, practice is hard. If it's not hard, then it's probably not right, you know. And I felt that I didn't feel the same even in the meetings, you know. I don't think it's a wake-up call. I showed them yesterday 3 different teams that had won big games and then the next week got beat by unranked opponents. And I just said, hey, you get the drift in here. You know, we are Arkansas, and the way we have had some, you know, a little success is because we roll up our sleeves and we go to work. And we didn't do that to our standards, which are as high as anywhere in the country. And I have zero doubt that we'll have a good practice today. Big time athletes, you know, he throws the ball well as well, but you know what? In their first 2 games, I think they've pitched the ball on their option 4 times. And then you turn his in there, and he's going to pitch it if he needs to pitch. He's going to keep it if he needs. He's going to hand it off. So, you know, he's got experience at it. Very good athlete, elusive, fast. I like him. A good thrower. I think that coach is doing exactly what he needs to do with his talent, running that option. And he's got a big back. I like that big back. That, you know, he rushed for, I don't know what it was, 150 plus in the first game, where they just running power with him in inside zone off the option, you know, with the threat of option as well. They got a lot of offense now. I mean, they can go from 5 wide to running the option. And it just depends on, I guess, how they're feeling at the time. Maybe if they get behind like they did last week, they were tossing around like crazy. And if they're ahead, you know, I think my feeling of watching them is they want to be an option team. But I like their offensive line. They're not quite as tall. You know, you're looking at 6'3", 6'4", maybe a 6-foot guy that's going to have built-in leverage, you know, just because of his height. But they'll fly off the football. And same thing kind of on their D-line, Trey. You know, their nose guard's a really good player. He's 6 foot tall. And then they've got a defensive end, number 2, that I really like too. But told our team, you know, when you go to Georgia, and you can look anywhere in the state of Georgia, but if you want to go find one that guaranteed tough, go to South Georgia. And he got a lot of kids from down there. And so we know they're going to be an extremely tough, physical, hard-playing team.
So, yeah, that kind of goes along hand in hand with what you were saying, Duran, is with your notes on what Pittman had to say.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they're going to be ready for sure. And he's not going to let this team. He's just got too much hands on. He's too smart to let that kind of stuff creep into the team. And the players, I feel like they're basically just an extension of Pittman. They are they're focused, and they are ready to go. And they're not going to let that happen, especially the leaders on this team.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's just a lot of good leadership on the team right now. There's a good mix of youth and veteran players on this team. It's a really nice combo that they have. You've got really big time veterans in very key roles, especially at linebacker. This defense, to me, just looking at it, I believe that they have got this edge about them that I'll just love to see. Now, some of that, you're seeing some of that in this targeting stuff. These guys are going 100%, that hair on fire, and you're going to get some of that at some point. But this team, I think, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is going to be ready. I would like to see this team look like a ranked ball team, ranked 20th in the AP, 24th in the coaches. First time in 16 years. You don't want to drop out. And looking good this week only fuels what happens for next week. I mean, you've got a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but looking at the schedule, there's really not many marquee college football games going on next week. A ranked Texas A&M and a ranked Arkansas team at Jerry's World is a possibility for College game day. Okay. I think there's only maybe Notre Dame, Wisconsin, maybe the other bigger game, and that's it. It's probably going to be one of those two. Arkansas looks impressive against Georgia Southern. Looks like the hot team in the nation right now, going in to what could be a top 10 A&M team. I think you've got a shot. So there's a lot of good things that can happen here in this week and then the next week if Arkansas just takes care of business.
Yeah, you got to slow that down a little bit though, Brad, because Texas A&M almost lost to a average Colorado team. Now some people can chalk that up to, they went up to to altitude, and it's always tough to play at altitude. And I get that, but A&M could have lost that game and probably should have.
They should have. And they didn't look good. And that's what makes me, looking at this situation, I feel like Arkansas's got a chance here, guys, to be the end of September. You're talking about an Arkansas team that just a couple years back is 1-23 in the SEC. And if they win the next two games in the end of September, Arkansas will be either knocking on the door of the top 10 or will be in it if they win those two games.
Yeah, I mean, and it's amazing. Since 2016, since we've been ranked, and if we could win these two games and be 4-0, I think that would be the first time since 2003 we started 4-0. So, I mean, just a lot there. And one thing before we get too far away from it, we were talking about getting this team ready and prepared and not have this lackluster letdown against Georgia Southern. Pittman also, he did say, and I love this, he said that practice is hard. You just got this big win over Texas, and then you come out and they don't mess around in practice. He wants his practices to be harder than the game. So when they get to the game, it's simple compared. And there's some times where I don't feel like that was going on, like say under Brett Bielema. He's out there wearing his sandals and his Bahama shorts and ready to go grill in the backyard with his buddies, after practice. There's a lot of rumors about that might have been what kind of made Pittman and Chaney mad was, there was a lot of extracurricular activities going on and not enough time spent out there on the practice field and things of that nature. So, I think I love that where he said that about practice, and how it's going to be hard. So he's hard on these guys. He's got them ready. I don't feel like there's going to be a letdown, and it's exciting build up. This team, Georgia Southern, I mean, they're going to run the triple option. Last week they got behind. They were up. I think they were up 6-0, and they went down. And they could have scored again, had a turnover, and then they were down 32-6, or that might have been the final. It was something like that. It was a bad loss, but they started showing 5 wide. Pittman says they want to look like that. They want to run the option. That's what they really want to do, but they're not afraid to do a lot of things. Their quarterback Tomlin, he's shown that he can throw the ball. I mean, they were throwing it quite a bit last week. Obviously, they weren't getting touchdowns or scoring out of it, but this team is multiple in a lot of ways. But my biggest thing is I want us to come out of this clean and not injured, because I know when you play an option team, it can really put a toll on your team. That's why you got to take more time out of your fall camp to get ready for it.
Another thing that they talk about is these kids down in South Georgia are pretty tough.
Yes.
And you talk about Sam Pittman, he knows Georgia pretty well. And he says, if I'm going to go try to find a tough kid in Georgia, I'm going to go down to the south part of the state, because that's where they are. And Georgia Southern, of course, they're a local team. They're going to soak up those local athletes. So by what Sam Pittman's going to say, of course, not all coaches are going to say, they're going to play physical and they're going to be tough. You got to say that because you don't want us to go out there and saying, they're terrible and we're going to win. you can't say that. So I mean, you got to say something good about them, and that's always something that the coaches rely on. But I think in this case, when you go back and you look at the offense that Georgia Southern runs, and you look at what they want to do, not what they have to do when they get behind, but with what they want to do, they want to control the line of scrimmage, they want to control the clock, and they want to grind it out and play physical football. And their style of offense leads credence to that.
I don't think they have a chance to control the line of scrimmage, at least from what I've seen so far. Maybe that will change. You never know. I mean, how hard these guys play. I doubt that they're going to play as hard as they did against Texas. But I mean, offensive line, defensive line right now, I just don't think they have a shot. You look at their offensive line, they've got 2 under 300 pounders on that line. I can tell you, we know from experience that in the SEC, you can't have under 300 pounders. It just doesn't work. We did that 2 and 3 years ago. We did that. We can't do that. So Arkansas's got to take advantage of the opportunity that they have on the offensive line and the defensive line to really make their way, push the game out. And, the way Arkansas ran the ball, the way Arkansas plays defense, at this point, you got to say that they've got just a great shot of really taking care of business this week and just continuing that. And I hope that they do.
Yeah, one of the things. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say he hit the nail on the head about the O line and the D line, and a guy that we haven't really talked about on here is a whole lot is the transfer Trey Williams, number 55. That guy is an animal. I'm so excited about him. I don't know if y'all caught it, but they talked about it during the TV broadcast where he just pressed that dude with his left hand, number 70, the left tackle for Texas, and just put him on his backside. I mean, we ate Texas up, and I got a feeling that it's going to be more of the same against Georgia Southern on both lines.
What you said about Williams, I know, dude. Okay, so just think that guy was pushing a guy around that weighed at least 60 pounds more than he did.
Yes, that was a big tackle.
He was pushing him in the backfield all game long. And you can just tell this guy, he's got no quit in him. I mean, the play that there was actually, I think, a procedure penalty, and he just keeps pushing the guy back.
Right.
He ends up sacking Card on that play.
Right.
He didn't know. He didn't know. Yeah, he didn't know. You got to have some guys that black out a little bit on defense. Yeah. You know what I mean? You need those guys that have a little bit of crazy in them. He seems to be one of them, and I love that effort, man, that he put out there.
I'm so excited about him. Markel Utsey, Ridgeway, we already talked about, and is it Utsey 0? Yeah, yes. And there's another one I'm forgetting, but that's Trey Williams. But there's Zach Williams. He had a couple plays, and he's the one that knocked the ball out of Card's hand and got that fumble. So I mean, just the D line is looking great, and isn't that cool? Because that's what I was going to say a minute ago. This is the reason we lost to Colorado State. This is the reason we lost to Western Kentucky. This is the reason we lost to North Texas, is because we're an SEC team. And no matter if they're out playing us, they're out scheming us, you can line up and smash the ball over these guys and wear them out when you're an SEC team, or what's supposed to be an SEC team. And we haven't been that on our lines after we lost Sam Pittman. We lost that physicality, and we lost that talent and that ability on the O-line and D-lines, and now we've got it. And that's why, excuse me, a game like Georgia Southern does not make me worried at all.
I'm not worried about it.
I just want us to look good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about them either. I'm more worried about ourselves overlooking them, because you look at Georgia Southern, a 1-1 record. They were able to beat Gardner-Webb closely, a 30-25 game. Of course, Gardner-Webb also lost to Charlotte 36-10. And then they lost last week to FAU, and Florida Atlantic is one of those teams that you would think would come into Fayetteville and we should hand the ball to them and be able to take control of it. And they lost to FAU 38-6. So they're not putting up numbers that make me, might make my eyes sparkle. It's not Texas coming in.
I think that Rice is probably a better football team, at least just looking at numbers comparatively, than Georgia Southern is. And so I think Arkansas's got a great shot at just handling business if they will. This is one of those games that if you did come in and you let your guard down, what might happen. But even at that, I heard their coach actually say that he didn't sound very confident in his press conference again with the other day. He just said, you're coming in to an SEC club. He said, we want to win every game. He said, but we know it's different. It's going to be different at Arkansas. And right now, think about that just a minute. You have a team that just a couple years back lost all those games to North Texas and Colorado State. You would think that Georgia Southern would have the opportunity, or think if they had the opportunity to win, they'd feel confident. That coach didn't feel very confident. You could tell by how he was acting. This is a different ball club. It's a different time. It's a different era.
And, if the coach doesn't display the confidence, the players aren't going to pick up on it, and they're not going to have the confidence, and it will snowball if the coach isn't careful.
Yeah, the boys are back. And one of my favorite quotes from the Bielema era was about Sebastian Tretola. And he said, ain't nobody want to come onto the green and play the red. And that what he was talking about is every time that someone come and played us, they were beat up. Just like when someone plays Alabama, they're beat up the next week. Even if we didn't get the win, you were in a dogfight with the University of Arkansas, and we've got that edge back to us again. And I'm super excited about it. I love what KJ said in the presser the other day that, the win over Texas, it just means that, our physicality is back. And the message it sends is we're a blue collar physical football team. And that's the first thing you got to have right there. As a football coach, in my opinion, that's one of the greatest things that can be said about your team. If you got that, the X's and O's and all that stuff comes second, in my opinion. That's the first thing you got to have. And you can win a lot of football games if you got that right there.
When you bring up Tretola, you all think, you go back to Sam Pittman was the offensive line coach at that time.
Exactly.
And I remember when Pittman was here as the offensive line coach, I kept looking at the offensive line thinking, we've never had better offensive line play at Arkansas that I ever remember. And we had some decent offensive lines with Houston Nutt, Mike Markison, and all that. But with Pittman, it was just a different level. It was a different level of physicality. I know you guys remember this, the graphic that they used to put up every game. Arkansas has the biggest offensive line in the world.
Right. Media cover and all that.
Bigger than the Raiders.
Even in the SEC.
Exactly. Yeah, bigger than the
NFL.
Raiders.
NFL. And
yeah, I mean, everywhere. So you're getting back to that. And we didn't really know what we had until we missed it. But I'm going to tell you something. The biggest blessing maybe ever the University of Arkansas, and this is a time will tell statement, is that Sam Pittman went to Georgia. And he saw what it looked like at Georgia, and he said, I can make it happen at Arkansas. And that's probably the biggest thing that's ever happened, maybe, possibly, to Arkansas. And again, that's a time will tell statement. We'll see what happens.
And I think that's part of his blueprint, is to make us basically the Georgia of the SEC West.
Yes.
And that's a tall task to do. But how many of us, after back-to-back 2-10 seasons with Morris, wouldn't take that and say, I'll take it right now, no matter what, even if it's means get to the championship game and lose it, I'll take it. Yeah, we all want a championship, but if we can get to the point where we're winning 10, 11, 12 games and have a shot to play for it, sign me up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that's definitely what he is kind of got the learning there. And you're right, man. Going down there under Kirby Smart was huge for his confidence and everything else. And he's definitely got the blueprint.
Well, think about it real quick before I let you go. Saban teaches Smart. Smart teaches Pittman. I mean, that's huge, man. That's huge. That basically now you can say that essentially that Pittman is under the Nick Saban coaching tree.
Yeah, and in a way, and he also said in the presser that there's nobody that tries as hard as we do. That are the higher expectations. That's what it was. No one has higher expectations than we do at the University of Arkansas, and you love hearing that kind of stuff. And that's something that you would hear Saban say easily.
So he's got to go in the right direction. Georgia Southern coming up this week. Then we got a big matchup on the road at Jerry's World with A&M after that. We're going to try to get some eyes in that game and kind of bring you a behind-the-scenes look at what's going on at Jerry's World, if we can get that going on for us. But until next time, that's all we have for this week's episode of The Razor Wire. Stay tuned. We'll be back next week right here on
The Razor Wire.